to Clash of Culture. We continue our 2023 college football preview. Today, we are going to be previewing the UNC Tar Heels versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. But before we get to football, like always, we want to thank everybody who came out to the live show this past weekend. We have another one coming up this upcoming Sunday. Please also enter the college football pick'em. That should be fun. And you're really entering for a free chance to win a jersey of your choice. So a lot of big things coming up. You're going to see a live show happening 2 per week, one previewing college football games and then one recapping college football games. So one on Friday and then one on Sunday. We thank you guys for the love and support. So please continue to press that like and subscribe button as we get to 1,000 subscriptions. When we do get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away another signed Heisman jersey. So look out for that. And we are about 100 plus or a little bit under 100 away. So excited about that. With that being said, Stephen, what's your thoughts on UNC versus South Carolina?
So just to kind of, before I give my take and thoughts on it, North Carolina is opened up as a 2.5-point favorite against South Carolina, which I would say is pretty fair. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched up. I'm not really sure where you're going to go with this game, which is kind of interesting. Most times we do the previews, I feel like we both kind of have an idea of who the other person thinks is going to win. But I think this game is a toss-up. I think obviously it's not a big-time matchup like, the Georgia, Alabamas and stuff like that. But I think this is a 50-50 game. I like North Carolina in this game. I like Drake May. I think he's going to have a good year as well. I think South Carolina, the momentum they're bringing back from last year is getting a little overhyped. I don't know if they're going to be able to, take down the Tennessees and the Clemsons like they did last season, or even compete with like the Notre Dames of the world. I do think North Carolina happens to win this game. I think 3 points, like I said, a 2.5-point favorite seems about right. The over-under is at 62.5. So they predict this to be a really high-scoring game. Obviously, North Carolina's defense was not very good last year. They lost a lot of defensive players in the transfer portal. Both starting corners are gone. Obviously, Tony Grimes didn't play much towards the end of the year. I'm not really sure what's going on with him. And then Storm Duck left as well. So there's some question marks surrounding the defensive side of the ball. But we got to talk about the wide receiver room as well, losing Josh Downs. So I think Drake May has his work cut out for him this year. This is obviously a week 1 game, so he's not going to have much time to prepare. This game is in, 3 weeks from now? The game day game for the week. Those of you guys who didn't watch our predicting game day video, we predicted all the game day locations, and I was going to pick this one, but I didn't know if they were going to.
You did pick.
I did, but it was I think it was a Friday game. It's either a Friday game. Oh no, I'm sorry, no, it's a neutral site game.
No, because the first week game. It's neutral site. Yes.
And I thought that they wouldn't do it because it's a neutral site. So that's why I was like, if you guys watch the video, you'll see I was kind of iffy on choosing because I didn't know if they were actually going to do it. But this is, I feel like this is the most entertaining game outside of the LSU Florida State game. Obviously, that game is on a Sunday, so it wasn't going to be the game day game. But I think this game is going to be really good, high scoring, a lot of explosiveness, electricity. But what are your thoughts on it, and kind of what is your take on both teams?
So I think to your point, this is a toss-up game. This is a pick'em game. I've probably, as we talked about doing this video, I've kind of gone back and forth. I'm going to pick South Carolina, and I'm going to pick South Carolina for the very reasons that you named. The losses on defense. I think Drake May is a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler, but I think Josh Downs was a big part of that receiving core. They did bring in North Carolina, and we've talked about both teams. So please look at the preview video if you want to get more in depth into the roster. But they did bring in 2 transfer wide receivers. But that's tough. It's tough to really project what that's going to look like. Can they replace Josh Downs' production? I think South Carolina has a little bit more continuality. Obviously, Spencer Rattler's there. They did lose their tight end. They brought in Trey Knox to replace the tight end. But they have 2 receivers, Antoine Wells and Xavier Leggett, that were there last year. So I feel like they got a little bit more continuality. So I think that is the biggest cause. But I think even in the North Carolina preview video, and I'm sure you guys are going to probably blast me for it because I think I picked North Carolina to beat South Carolina. But this is really a toss-up game to me. This game can go either way. Probably why it's the game day game. I am literally picking South Carolina to squeak this game out by a little bit. And I think if this game, and I think we've talked about this a couple times in other preview games, if this game was played later in the season, I think I would have picked North Carolina because I think that would have given Drake May a little bit more time to create some cohesion with his receivers. I think just because this game being so early in the season, and I think it's the first game for both teams. I don't think either team has a week zero game. So the first game, the first time you're playing somebody else, um, I give continuality a bigger priority in this game. So this is why I'm going to pick South Carolina just this week.
And like I said, both defenses were not very good.
Right.
So North Carolina last season, obviously, it's a different team, but based on what we saw, North Carolina gave up 31 points per game. South Carolina gave up 27. And offensively, South Carolina scored 32 and North Carolina scored 34. So it's very, very similar on both ends of the teams. One of them obviously scoring 32 and giving up 27, the other scoring 34 and giving up 31. So it's still about a 4-point swing, obviously a positive way, but that's you're giving up 27 points a game is kind of crazy when you're only scoring 30. 27 points a game is a lot, especially when you ranked almost in the 70s and 80s, 60s as far as stopping other opposing offenses. Both offenses shown that they could be electric down the field with Spencer Rattler and Drake May. So I think this is going to be an explosive game. Kind of the opposite of what we're going to see with the LSU Florida State. I expect this game to go well over that 62.5 over under. If you just look at the averages of each of them scoring, 34 and 32 points, that's already there. And that's going against two, from what we've seen, bad defenses. Right. So I would assume that this is going to be a very high scoring game. You talked a little bit about the loss of Jaheim Bell. Trey Knox coming over from Arkansas, I think, kind of eliminates that. Yeah. I don't think Trey Knox is as good as Jaheim Bell, but I think it kind of helps mask it a little bit.
But again, when we look at Jaheim Bell, we're talking 25 catches, 230 yards. So we're not talking about a ridiculous amount that they need to replace. And Wells being their primary receiver. So again, we're talking about South Carolina keeping their primary receiver in Wells, who went for almost 1,000 yards last year, versus North Carolina, who lost Josh Downs to the NFL draft, obviously. So I think that to me, that is where I say there was a difference.
Jaheim Bell was kind of like a Swiss Army knife, though, because he had like 75 carries, too. Yeah. And he scored a few times on the ground. So it's kind of weird. He was the second leading rusher on the team. Obviously, they didn't run the ball a lot, but he was the second leading rusher on the team. I think it's going to be interesting, though. Like I said, it is a neutral site field, so it's kind of hard to say, what's the word, like home field advantage kind of thing, because it's literally at the Panther Stadium. So it's, technically, you would say North Carolina has
North Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's so close that it's going to be literally a 50-50 crowd. It's going to be jumping. Again, like I said, the game day game. So I'm excited for this one. I think my final score prediction, like I said, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, but I do have North Carolina winning. I'm going to go 47-44. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game.
You went high-scoring.
Yeah, I would, like I said, I would expect both teams to kind of have. I think they're going to struggle offensively, just because maybe their first couple of drives. Obviously, it's the first drives of the season against a team that you haven't seen other than your scout defense or whatever the case may be. But I think, again, what South Carolina did to Clemson, what they did to Tennessee, and what they did to Notre Dame, those are three teams who I would say Tennessee didn't have a great defense last year. But if you're talking about talent on paper, I think all three of those teams have more talent on paper defensively than North Carolina does. So I would expect, even though I'm picking North Carolina to win, South Carolina to be able to put up points. And I think with how explosive Drake May can be with that offense, I expect North Carolina to put up points. So I expect a very high-scoring game. If obviously I live in a state that I cannot bet, but if I could bet, I would bet the over on the over-under of 62.5.
Yeah, and this is where I say I give a little bit of leverage. I think Spencer Rattler leaving Oklahoma was a little down. Lost his job, obviously, to Caleb Williams. Prior to the season where Caleb Williams took his job, so not last season, but the season before that, we were talking about possibly a top 5 draft pick. He went to South Carolina and had a very slow start, but seemed to pick up steam and confidence late in the season. So you're talking about, as you mentioned, 400 plus yards against Tennessee, 360 yards against Clemson. And even in the loss to Notre Dame, he went for over 200, or he went for about 250 yards. So I think he started to pick up some confidence late. And I think we all believed that he had the tools. So I think when that South Carolina team ended the season, and again, outside of the bowl game, they ended on a very high upswing, beating 2 top 10 teams. And if you guys remember, they were the big upsetter that kind of threw the playoff picture into chaos.
Yes.
So I think they're going to go into the season with a high level, with a high amount of confidence. And I think Spencer Rattler is going to go into the season with a high amount of confidence. So like I said, I'm going to go 31-28. South Carolina. And like I said, I think that's partially because South Carolina is bringing back their number 1 receiver. Spencer Rattler will have continuality with him. And I think they're able to pull a last-second touchdown in a great week 1 game day game.
Yeah, I hope the game day game is good. Obviously, there was a few different options they could have went with. They went with this one, so I hope this is a good one. But before we get out of here, Dad, do you have the trivia?
I do.
All right, let's hear
it. All right, so this is going to be, I think, somewhat simple. All right, so let me caveat this. I am using ESPN's recruiting database for this.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me, starting from 2023, so not the recruiting class. So the recruiting class is in college right now. The last 4 number 1 recruits.
The players?
Yes, the last 4. So 2023's number 1 recruit, 2022's number 1 recruit, 2021 and 2020.
Okay, so Arch Manning.
Arch Manning was not ESPN's number 1 recruit from last year.
Was it Malachi Nelson?
Malachi Nelson was 2023.
Okay. So Malachi Nelson 2022 should have been Travis Hunter.
Let me see. Hold on. My.
Yeah, it should be Travis Hunter. You should have had this already, bro. Come on.
You literally, it is not Travis Hunter.
It's not?
No.
Is it Peter Woods?
No. It is somebody in the SEC.
I don't know.
Walter Nolan.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
The defensive tackle at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. So 2021.
Yep. So this person's still in college. They are in a Power 5 conference. I'll even tell you, they're in the Big Ten. It's a name that I know. I don't know if you know.
I probably don't know who it is. Who is it?
Oh, Jack Sawyer, the defensive end at Ohio State.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
All right, and last one, 2020. Do you know 2020? I'll tell you, the same school.
Ohio State?
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
Julian Fleming.
Oh, that's crazy because he fell off.
Well, he had an injury. So the expectation is that this would be his year.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe also just he's been playing with so many good receivers that he kind of gets overshadowed. I don't know why you said, relax, bro.
I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you.
Hey, y'all see that? He tried to toot his own horn. That's crazy.
I didn't try to toot. I was like, agreeing with you.
That was our North Carolina, South Carolina preview. Those of you guys who stuck around this long, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys smash the like button, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Like my dad said in the beginning of the video, we are doing lives every Friday and Sunday, previewing and then recapping. And we're going to post every day. We're still going to do every day. I think we're going up on almost 3 months of straight uploading, which has been fun. Right now we're sitting at 895 subscribers. So help us get to that 900 mark, and then the 1,000, which when we're going to give away a signed jersey. The pick'em is in the description below. But we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.